What's going on, guys? Hope everyone out there is doing well, and welcome back to another Patreon exclusive spot exposed video right here in my new hometown of Richmond Hill. So I've got a really good spot lined up for you guys today. This is a spot that has been trending for me over the past couple of days. Last week, or this week, I fished, I guess last week by the time this is recorded, I fished 3 times last week, and I've been kind of hitting different types of areas just to get a feel for where these fish are, because as the water temperature drops, the fish are always constantly moving. They're doing something different. They're going deep, they're going shallow, they're moving out of areas completely. And I wanted to really get a good feel for what's going on, especially with me being able to fish for 3 full days. Now, I did fish up in Hilton Head one of the days. I was in Savannah on another one of the days. And in my last trip, which was Thanksgiving afternoon, I fished right down here in Richmond Hill with my dad. Now, this trip with my dad that I'm going to talk about and show you guys specifically was one of those days where I didn't take any cameras out with me. I just wanted to enjoy some time with him and just kind of get out on the water. But I wanted to put him on fish, right? He lives up in North Georgia. They don't come down often. I wanted to be able to catch some fish and be able to, provide a nice little fish fry for him while he's down here. And I wanted to do as simple of fishing for him as I possibly could. He's the kind of guy where he doesn't fish a lot. He's not comfortable with throwing and bouncing and jig heads off the bottom like I do. So first thing that came to my mind is we need to go somewhere where I can set up a popping cork on a 7'6" rod and just tell him, throw it right here and pop that thing. And that's exactly what we did. And we wound up boating over 20 fish. We had a one-man limit on the keeper side, and it was just a really good day. We just strategically picked apart a river system, and you guys, this was easy fishing. So let's zoom into the spot. I want to talk about the trend. I want to show you everything like I normally do in these videos. But the general area we're going to be focusing on in today's video is the straight stretch here on this Belfast River. Now, I know if you guys have ever been around this area, you probably just fly down this part of the river, getting to another spot, and you think, okay, there's nothing great here. There's no hard oyster shells. There's no great points. There's not a whole lot of grasses. What makes this point so good? Well, we have to start getting our brains wrapped around, especially during the wintertime, around the mindset of we need to find warm water. These fish, trout specifically, are very sensitive to temperature changes, and when that water temperature drops, it makes these fish move. Now, whether they're moving deep, they're moving all the way out, they're going to move somewhere, right? So we want to try to fish warming trends for this time of the year right now. The water temperature isn't cold enough that it's pushed them too far out, but definitely on these warming trend days is going to be the best times and the best opportunity to get out here and catch fish in higher volumes. If the trout are schooling up right now, and if you can position yourselves around some of these spots I'm going to talk about here in just a second, you're going to have a really nice, successful day. So the type of spot we're going to be focusing on today is out points, right? Anywhere that a coastal marsh system dumps out into a main river system, that is the out point that we're going to be focusing on. So what you have going on here is you have at high tide, all this water is going to push into this coastal marsh up in here on this side and up in here on this side. And at high tide, the water is going to move in. It's going to get warmed from the sunlight. It's going to get warmed from the mud radiating heat. And then when the tide turns and goes out, that's going to create a nice warm water pushing through these outflow points here. And that is where your fish are going to be staged sitting. They're going to be there waiting for that warm water to wake them up. And they're also going to be waiting for the bait to be flushing out. Now, there's not going to be a ton of bait in our river systems this time of year, but there are still some shrimp that get lost back there, as well as a few lost mullet. And these fish know that these baits can definitely come out of the rivers and out of these creek systems, and they're going to be staged, ready to go. They're going to be hungry, and they're going to hit that bait very, very fast. So I do want to put parameters on this type of fishing, though, because this type of fishing doesn't work best with any conditions, right? This is a type of spot to fish when you have high tide. That's sometime after lunch, not morning, but after lunch, and you need to fish it on a lower wind day. So the low wind day, for obvious reasons, when the water is hit by the cold air, the water temperature is going to drop. It does no good for water to be up here on this flat and a cold, overcast, windy conditions are happening, and it just cools the water. Then when the water flows off of this marsh here or off the flat, these type of outflow points are not going to fish as well because it's just dumping cold water. That's not what the trout want. The trout want the warm water outflow. So you need to find sunny days when there's not a lot of wind, and you want that tide to be a high tide after lunch. Now the reason you want it after lunch is because first thing in the morning, the sun hasn't gotten a chance to warm the water yet. So if you try to fish a high outgoing tide at say 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, you have cold night water that's going to be flowing through those out points. So try to set yourself up and line yourself up on a day where you have high tide, low winds, clear sunny skies anytime after lunch. The later in the day, the better. Right now, I think the warmest part of our day is probably 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you can get that gentleman start your fishing trip a little bit later, lined up with those parameters, that is going to be the recipe for success. So knowing all of that, here's how we fished it. We basically just pulled up here at the high outgoing tide, and we just started drifting all the way down the shoreline just like this. Every little creek entrance that we came to, we threw a cork into it. He threw a cork into it, I threw a jig head into it. They were both working equally the same because the fish were pushed up a little bit more shallow. The fish were hanging more on the edges. They were hanging kind of here in this little middle gut and on the edges just like this. They weren't staged out here on the ledge too much because they were moved in wanting that warm water and wanting to get that bait as it flushed out of these little creeks and whatnot. But that's all you got to do, you guys. Pull up here, set your trolling motor in a spot lock mode, or hold the boat there with the big anchor, whatever you have to do. Let the boat swing, get positioned, and then slowly start drifting back into position. Do yourself a favor and do not come in here hot right here, cut the motor, and then to turn the trolling motor on. Trolling motor's running wide open. You're trying to get in position. You overshoot. Now you got to back out. You just blew the spot. You just scared all the fish that were here. Not to mention you may have ran over some of the fish that are hanging on this, just on the very edge or the ledge right here. So definitely come in quietly, start your approach from upstream, and then drift your boat down into position and then fish it. But that's it, guys. Just tear apart every single little creek mouth you go to. We caught a lot of fish in here because we hit a lot of spots. This is a very, very easy way to do it. Someone throw a cork, someone throw a jig head on the bottom. If you like to throw live baits, live bait under a cork. If you want to set an adjustable cork, you can, but at a high outgoing tide, you're going to be fishing fairly shallow anyway, so you don't have to set it at 8 or 10 feet like you're going to in a lot of other types of places. These fish are definitely going to be shallow. If you want to throw a Carolina rig up into the mouth of one of these little creeks like this, just throw one right here in the middle, have someone else throw it on the side here on the outgoing side, right, because everything's going to come out of this creek. It's going to turn the corner just like that. And these fish are going to be nosed in right here, staged just like that. So soak some bait here, soak some bait here, and that just kind of gives you some different options. Now, if you're going to throw artificial baits, you guys need to start throwing small baits. 3.5-inch swimming trout trick profiles, 3-inch minnows profiles, 2.5-inch baits. These are the size baits that these fish are really going to take off after. As the water temperatures start to get cooler throughout the winter, we have to think fish are going to be lethargic, they're not going to be as active, and they don't want to chase big baits. So they're going to go after small meals. The only downside to that is the smaller the bait presentation you throw, the more difficult it is to seek out and search for bait. So sometimes if you got to get into an area and you need to throw a larger bait profile, like a 4-inch diesel minnow paddle tail, just to kind of see if there's anything in there, because you can get some nice coverage, you can get some nice tail kicks with that bait. You can do that as well, but just understand if you start getting short struck, you need to downsize the profile of your bait and you need to increase procure. I'm telling you, procure is going to be your best friend in the wintertime. There's not a lot of bait in the water, and these fish aren't going to commit on biting a lure. Sometimes they'll short strike it and just barely hit that tail. If you have that thing covered in procure, when he hits that tail, he's going to taste whatever scent you have on it. He's going to come back for a second bite, and that's something that I experienced out there. I kept getting short struck. I put that blue crab procure on, and it was tapped, and then boom, they immediately hit it. They would always come back for a second bite. And that's it, you guys. This is a really, really great way to catch fish. It's an easy way to catch fish, and you don't have to go very far. You don't have to make long runs. Just strategically hit little creek mouths or these little outflow points just like this and see if you can find some fish. So that's all I got for today, you guys. One last thing too. I am going to be doing a lot of offshore fishing this winter. The Sea Hunt is getting close to being completed with the electronics package upgrade as well as the new trolling motor. Once all that stuff goes on the boat, I do plan on making some runs offshore to chase after the big bull reds that are out there on the wrecks. Sheep's head, black drum, the black sea bass, they're all out there. So if you guys are interested in me doing some spot exposed videos for Richmond Hill, please let me know in the comment section of this video below. I'm going to need an overwhelming response to tell me if that's something you guys want me to start doing or not. I know I got a lot of inshore guys, but I do have some offshore guys that have some little bit slightly bigger boats. So I would love to get out there and provide content as far as where we were, exact coordinates, what was working as far as bait. But we're not going to run 20 miles offshore. We're only going to run the wrecks and reefs that are about 3 to 7 miles offshore. So even though you don't have a monster boat, 18, 19 foot boats on a calm day can get out there and they can still do some damage. I went out 5 miles last year off of Savannah in the Mako Pro Skiff on a calm day, and I didn't have any issues. So you just got to kind of pick your days. But definitely let me know if you're interested in something like that. And that's all I got. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for the support, you guys.